Well, quite recently, we had a bit of a chat about the ICT sector, and you sent me an article about the compliance on equity equivalent programs and so on. Quickly talk us through that and how that works, and maybe also what the problem is.
I think the ICT sector is probably the one sector that's really gone for these equity equivalent programs. There's the ones that I know about. I think that all the major hardware providers, Dell, IBM, I think was one of the first ones to do it. HP was actually, Hewlett Packard was one of the first ones to do it. And Samsung's done one. They've listed the really, really good ones. The best one was Microsoft because actually the best one was Microsoft for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Microsoft, when they put together their presentation to whoever it was, they had this quote. They're saying, what industry insiders say, and they quoted my blog where I said that if there was a textbook case for an equity equivalent program, then this is the textbook case because Microsoft's was so simple. They said, we're going to concentrate on 8 software developers building on a Microsoft platform, creating applications that reside on a Microsoft platform. And this is going to be worth, I think at the time, it's a long time ago, 15 years ago, it's going to be worth half a billion rand, which was the value, the value of the local, 25% of the value of the local Microsoft franchise. Not really a franchise, but company. And this was just so good because I posit that the actual cost to Microsoft was maybe 20 million because they're going to include all the software, which is a sunk cost, all the applications, everything like that in that whole thing. They're developing people to develop applications on a Microsoft platform, which means that in order to make use of that application, you have to go and buy a Microsoft license and how to do that. That's the best example that I've ever come across. That was absolutely brilliant. Actually, as an aside note, SAB, when they did their BE deal, theirs was just as clever. They gave shares to shebeen owners who registered their shebeens. Why not? The biggest threat to one of their biggest markets is the illegal shebeen. And the Western Cape, specifically the Western Cape, was threatening to close those shebeens down. SAB were going to lose mountains and mountains of beer. So what do? They say, you register yourself and you get licensed. I tell you what, we'll give you SAB shares. Brilliant. Anyway, so some person whose name I forget, and you can go and read the article. If we just put a link down at the bottom of this video, goes off to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on ICT and says, we've only had 3 applications for equity equivalent programs in the last 14 months or something like that. That's absolutely abysmal. There are at least 50 South African multinationals operating in South Africa. This is paltry, really. Well, what's the problem? Okay. The problem is that the other 47 are still trading without the equity equivalent program. They don't need it. They figured a way to get around it. People want their products, so they're making a plan. You're not going to get the other guys because the equity equivalent program is onerous and it's expensive. And it can take, I heard a story, it was a pharmaceutical one, took 2 years. And every single time that this company went to go and speak to the DTIC about this thing, they changed their mind. They spoke to different people. There was never any consistency. Why are you going to bother? So, ach shame, ek voel jammer vir jou. Jy kry swaar, but for a very good reason. People just think that they don't trust you. They think you're corrupt. You're complaining about, the same article complains about the quality of the information. Well, then no one trusts you. And people are not going for these programs. Unless, of course, Solomon Latsi, is it? The guy, the Minister of Communications, comes up with a plan whereby people like Starlink can come and operate here through an equity equivalent program. But I'm telling you that it's unlikely that Elon Musk is going to go through the hoops that the equity equivalent programs prescribe just to get his Starlink here. Because he knows, and I know, and I think you know, and I think our viewer knows, that South Africa needs Starlink more than Starlink needs South Africa.
It's interesting. So as a multinational, I want to come to South Africa. I want to trade here. Government tells me that I need this equity equivalent program as part of my licensing agreement. So that prohibits me from actually trading here at all. So what happens is we lose the foreign investment, we lose the service in the country, and we also lose credibility out there. You can hear in the media how they're talking about us outside because it's too onerous and there's too many other things happening there, preventing them from trading with us. If we go into people who want to comply, why is that number drastically reducing locally? If the guys are already here, are they getting by? Are they coping without taking part in this? And is it because certain industries or certain sectors are not actually forced to have that in as part of their licensing or trading agreements, that they don't need it?
There aren't many industries that need licenses. You need an ICASA license. It says you have to have 30% historically disadvantaged South African shareholding. Quite prescriptive. And interestingly enough, that does include white women and white disabled people in your shareholding. Although they want a level 4 BE certificate, so actually what they're saying, because you can't get a level 4 BE certificate unless you have the black ownership. So they're saying that you need to make sure that you get the black ownership anyway. So they kind of got a backdoor way of sorting out the BE stuff. But the point is that for everybody else, a software company coming into South Africa selling software, what do you want a license for? What do you need a license for? You don't need a license to sell software. You need a license to mine. You need a license to for a ICASA license. And I'm sure there are a few others. There was something about security companies or something. You need a license and 50% of the shareholding has to be South Africans, not specifically black South Africans. They still haven't made BE requirement for liquor licenses, and good luck to them if they try. I think you need a license, you need a gambling license, and there are requirements there. But everything else, if you want to come and operate here and you have some sort of marketing strategy or access to market strategy, and you're able to do it through channels or whatever, then go for it. We've got a specific client that sends us emails every 6 months, long emails. We need to be compliant. We can't really go with that OwnerShield solution that covers pretty much everything in the ownership sphere, but we need to be BE compliant. And we go, but you're never going to be BE compliant. Yes, but we're worried about the ICASA licenses. Well, ICASA doesn't know what they're doing. The thing is, Starlink is now it's such a big company, and they've made such a big stink about it that they've exposed themselves. Everybody knows about Starlink, but for the rest, at least find a way to get into the market if you don't need a license. If you need a license, then you've got issues.
Is there a future to the equity equivalent programs? Will they continue to exist?
Well, it exists on paper, and I'm sure that the companies that have done them are still doing them. But by the way, they only last 10 years. After you've invested 500 million rand into something, it only lasts 10 years. Like, where's the incentive? And if you invest less than, say, 75 million, then you only get a 2-year break. This is just like, really, people are breaking down. They're breaking down the walls and everything to come and invest in South Africa. It's complete and utter bullshit. It's not like that. They're not breaking down the walls. They don't want to be here. They don't want to run through this thing. And if they do want to get here, they find another way to come in. So the equity equivalent program, in theory, would be a good idea. It's too expensive. It's too onerous. There's too much red tape. There's not enough benefit. What is South Africa's contribution to Microsoft's total annual sales? Okay, we're talking to the east of a decimal point. Why did Microsoft do it? Because it's a good thing to do. What if they didn't do it? Everybody would still be running Microsoft licenses. The government would still be running Microsoft licenses. Why? Because that's what we know.
That's the
you
point.
And I pay, I don't know how much a year, and they've actually put it up now, put it up by 25%, so that I can have a license to run Microsoft because it's what I know.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, good. Thanks, Paul. I think the message is quite clear in that another way to, unfortunately, prevent international investment.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.